Hello. Ooh. The law of assumption, law of attraction community is clueless when it comes to so many concepts that are important to actually integrating these principles in our life. This video is going to help clarify a major point that almost every law of assumption and law of attraction channel I've seen on YouTube doesn't discuss in detail. Guess what? Most of those channels aren't that good. Sorry. And this channel is pretty good. I'm going through one of those phases where I'm like, man, why do I make these videos? You know what I mean? Because relatively so few people understand these concepts in just like a clear-eyed, rational way. They basically want to be sold snake oil instead. And it saddens me to see that, and it befuddles me. Because these ideas, these manifesting concepts, as they've been marketed, are really just, in so many helpful ways, practical self-improvement and psychological tools that can improve your life. And they don't have to sound so esoteric and sexy and instant results and all that stuff. I have to tell you, most of that promising to you, or those, promising you fast results or making it sound really esoteric and magical, is just, it's marketing horseshit. It's in all likelihood not going to be the results you get if you get good results from this stuff. Do you know how you get better results long-term with these manifesting ideas? You take them seriously and apply them in a down-to-earth manner. And you actually understand what they're getting at. People would rather just stay esoteric, ethereal, and totally lost. Or, occasionally have cool synchronicities or manifestations, and think that that's all there is to it. This stuff, in my opinion, is meant to change how you view the world psychologically. And as I always say, even if there were not these huge external changes to your world, if your life stayed pretty much the same, but these ideas resonated with you, you would feel a lot better. And in my opinion, that would be reason enough to do them. And this is one of the main points that people miss that we're going to cover today. I mentioned it in a recent car video. I'll put a link above to that recent car video. I was unsurprisingly talking about my favorite law of attraction type of teacher, Emile Coué. And I was saying that Coué explained these ideas so soberly, and you could say scientifically, compared to pretty much all the prominent LOA teachers that came after him. And one of the main things he said, and why he got much better results for people who went to him than anybody else who came after him, who taught about this stuff, who became famous, much, much, much better results, is because he spoke it in plain French and English. And what he said is that all of this stuff that these days we call manifesting, He said it's basically all just self-hypnosis. You are hypnotizing yourself. Not only when you are, doing a technique or doing a cliche form of, a hypnosis exercise, but throughout the day, your whole life. We are constantly hypnotizing ourselves. And what Coué pointed out quite soberly is we usually hypnotize ourselves in a very negative manner. We auto-suggest what we basically don't want as opposed to what we do want a lot of the time inadvertently. And Coué was about helping you correct that. So I don't want to say all the LOA, law of assumption, manifesting stuff we hear today is what Coué just explained. What I said Coué just explained as self-hypnosis. I don't want to say all of it is that, because perhaps it's not. But I will say almost all of it is that. Almost all this stuff with the esoteric language, the metaphysical language, or the sexy marketing is really just a form of self-hypnosis. If you believe it, it will do something to you. If you don't believe it, it probably won't. It's belief. It's engendering the belief in yourself that it's going to do something. It's hypnotizing yourself that such a thing is this way. Or that such and such a thing is this way. Or that such and such a thing is going to improve. Or that such and such a thing is going to get worse. It's engendering that belief. And for those of you who watch a lot of people on YouTube talk about these principles, if you step back a little bit, you'll see most of the teachers you like, because they're not using as sober language as we're using right now. If you like what they're saying, it's because you believe it. Even with all the metaphysical garb on it, it's because you believe what they're saying. And that's why it might be effective for you, or you believe it could be effective for you, because you believe it. What Coué did so well is he lifted back the curtain, The Wizard of Oz was just some guy pulling strings. He says, I've never cured anybody in my life. You cure yourself. You engender a belief that you can be healed, that you can manifest what you want. And if it's at all natural, it will come to pass, basically. That's what he said. And most of the time, it really is that simple. But as I like to say, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. If it was truly easy, everybody would do it. And Emile Coué would be far better known today than he is. And one reason that it's not easy for most of us, especially for big things we want to change in our life, is because we don't believe. We don't have faith that it will happen. Here's Coué saying, and you say that you have not improved at all. Do you know why? Simply because you have no confidence in yourself. When I say that you are better, you begin to feel better at once, don't you? Why? Because you believe in me. Believe now in yourself, and you will get just as good results. That's the issue, is that people don't believe in themselves. They believe instead in these teachers. They believe in these eloquent, articulate teachers who often have a lot of charisma and a lot of persuasive abilities to make you believe. And if you believe in them, chances are you will see results. But the thing is, most of these LOA teachers that are popular these days, they're not telling you as plainly as Coué does here and always did, that it's you really running the show. They don't make it clear that you lack confidence in yourself. And that's why this stuff isn't working. Coué again says, when I say that you are better, you begin to feel better at once, don't you? Why? Because you believe in me. Believe now in yourself and you will get just as good results. So that's the process. And again, I'm not saying that's all LOA, law of assumption stuff, but I am saying that's most of it. You know, I would consider myself a pretty spiritual, far out guy. And I've had a lot of weird experiences before, quote unquote, spiritual experiences or whatever you want to call it. Cool. What I'm telling you is those really far out spiritual experiences have very little to do with the pragmatic reality of the psychology of this, which is what Coué describes here. You say that you have not improved at all, that things haven't changed, basically, that you haven't manifested what you want. Do you know why? Simply because you don't feel confident in yourself that it's going to happen. When I say you're better, you begin to feel better. Why? Because you believe it when I say it. You don't believe it when you try to do it yourself. And you have to believe it when you try to do it yourself. I know a lot of people watching this channel understand what I'm getting at. And that's why I still make these videos. Even though I'm constantly befuddled by the stuff I hear and see, especially with Marvin Daniels and I doing a lot of relationship coaching, SP coaching as they call it. You hear so much nonsense, so much emphasis on technique that is just really, this big stage show, while the reality is a good teacher, a good coach or counselor or whoever, you got to rip off that curtain and see what's behind it. And then you can really get this stuff to work in a more gratifying manner for you long term and feel better about yourself and not be so confused why it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. And there's all these esoteric ideas and it works for someone, but why doesn't it work for me? It seems like I know just as much as that person, but why is it working for them? The reason usually just comes down to belief and whether you have confidence in what you're doing, whether it's going to work. And that confidence has to be cultivated from within. It can't be dependent on a certain teacher or teaching who says, do this, and only this will work, because that's external to you. And it's the internal thing that's going to become that foundation, which is what makes, generally speaking, these ideas more gratifying to do long term. Because you're going to have plenty of setbacks and failures. Everybody does who does this stuff. Coué worked at this stuff for, 20, 30 years. It's not like he just figured it out overnight. And same for almost everybody who's any good at explaining it. And a lot of people explain it well, but still don't understand the underlying principles as clearly as they could. And one of the main principles, you could say, is that this is basically a form of self-hypnosis where you have to hypnotize yourself. You have to learn how to hypnotize yourself to be more positive and expectant that your life is good, that your life is getting better and better, as Coué liked to say. And that's why you hear all this different language, this very far out language or religious language sometimes, because it's a way to get people to believe, to self-hypnotize themselves it's going to work. It's not glamorous. It's just worth doing, in my opinion. If you want help, if you're still watching this video, I'd be glad to help you. I offer short free consultations, and I offer longer paid coaching sessions. I can be reached at radicalcounselor.com.